Hi there, students. I'm XS. That's little x, little s, which stands for extra sweet, because that's what I am. I'm a puppy-sensei and I make Japanese language content to help you level up your abilities. Today we're going to have a somewhat shorter grammar drop. We're really just going to be learning a relatively simple verb, shinjiru, which is a verb that means to believe or to trust. Here it is, shinjiru, to believe. Why this verb in particular? Why did I select this one? Well, because actually, when you think about it, to believe is something of a complex concept in English when you try to put it into use. So we have I believe in something, and that's very different from I believe something, right? Those are different concepts in English, aren't they? It seems like a very subtle distinction, but I want you to think about these two English sentences. Our first sentence, I believe tomorrow will be a good day. Great, good sentence, no problem. Second sentence, I believe in tomorrow will be a good day. No, there's a problem there. That's not right. There is a grammatical inconsistency that exists in English between these two forms. When we form a sentence with believe in, the thing that we believe in needs to be a noun or a noun phrase. I believe in God. I believe in good puppies. I believe in the Leafs winning the Stanley Cup. Yeah, right. On the other hand, in English, we can believe in noun phrases and in nouns doing verb phrases indiscriminately. I believe puppy kohai, probably because he told me something and I believe it. Or, I believe puppy kohai can be a good puppy. Yep, definitely. All right, so, what about with Japanese then? Basically, this distinction between believe and believe in are both conveyed in Japanese through the same use of the verb shinjiru. Yes, this is one of many cases where Japanese grammar is actually simplified in comparison with English grammar. Let's take a look at some examples. So, this is a sentence, mirai o shinjiru. And the meaning of that is something like, I believe in the future. Let me explain briefly why I find Shinjiru to be so interesting. For me, I actually think that this sentence really should be more complicated than it is. When I want to translate this sentence as I believe in the future, I think that there should be various elements here, right? There's me, the doer of the verb. We don't have that in Japanese, and that's okay, right? I'm the one believing, but we don't need to specify that in Japanese. It's fine. There's mirai, and that's the thing that I believe in. Of course, we have the verb. Here it's shinjiru, which we know means to believe. But in English, I'm just sort of looking for something to designate that in aspect that we don't have in Japanese. There's something that separates the English sentence, I believe the future, which makes it sound like the future maybe told me something and I believe it, I don't doubt it. And let's contrast that with, I believe in the future, which makes it seem more like I believe that the future is going to happen, or that the future is real, or that the future is going to be good, something like that. However, the elements that we see here in the Japanese sentence are simply future, marked by the object marker, and believe. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, let's talk about context. Here's another sentence, okay? And this sentence is, メネージャー様を信じてください. We should understand this sentence fairly well by now, right? It's the verb shinjiru in the te kudasai form. And that te kudasai form means please do this verb. And so the meaning of this sentence should be something like, please believe manager-sama. But is that please believe in manager-sama, as in please trust her and please believe in her abilities? Or is it please believe something that manager-sama told you, maybe? Maybe she said something and I want you to believe it. I don't want you to distrust it. I want you to believe. Well, it's both. And you get that distinction through context alone, right? In Japanese, it's the context of the conversation that were already happening. If we're talking about how manager-sama told you something and I say, manager-sama o shinjite kudasai, then you understand that I'm saying, please believe her when she said that. If we're talking about how manager-sama is really cool and is really good at editing videos, and I say, manager-sama o shinjite kudasai, then you know that the meaning is, have faith in her, trust in her abilities. Something like that. Do you get the point that I'm making? I know that this is a very minor distinction, but I think it's really important to understand that Shinjiru in Japanese scopes over both of those meanings and doesn't require the concept of in, like believe in, the way that we really need it in English. Now, speaking of very subtle distinctions, let's go the other way and talk about Japanese for a second. Let's conjugate Shinjiru slightly differently, and then we'll talk about what happens. So this is shinjite iru. That's the te iru form. Okay, so we basically need to discuss the very subtle difference between shinjiru and shinjite iru, or sometimes shinjiteru. You kind of hear both of these. Sometimes that e just sort of gets dropped, and that's perfectly fine. But what we're talking about here is shinjite iru, the te iru form. Okay. Usually, when we see that te iru form, the feeling that's conveyed in that meaning is to be engaged in doing something right now, right? And so, tabete iru means I'm eating right now. Aruite iru means right now I am walking. Kangaete iru means I'm thinking about something at the moment. Right now I'm thinking. Okay, so does that mean that shinjite iru means right now I am believing? Not exactly. Unfortunately, it's just a little bit more complicated. The real distinction between shinjiru and shinjite iru is that with the latter, with shinjite iru, you might see cases where you've only just now been convinced of something. Where with shinjiru, that's a bit more rare. And that does track with what we already know about the use of base verbs versus te iru verbs, right? So here are two sentences. We have unme o shinjiru, which means like I believe in fate. And unme o shinjite iru, which also means I believe in fate, but it can be used in cases where something has just now happened and you go, okay, I'm convinced, I got it. And this is actually similar to what we've seen before, right? Base verbs like shinjiru can refer to things that have been true in the past and are likely to remain true in the future as well. It can be habitual, as in, I am in the habit of believing something. Shinjiteiru can mean the same thing, as in, yes, it can mean I believe in fate, but there are also cases where it could be something like a situation where something just now happened to convince you that fate is real and boom, ima unme o shinjiteru. Now I believe in fate, right? We've seen that before where the base verb is kind of just a lot more broad and it's true in a lot more cases. And the te iru form is just a little bit more specific. And here we can use it specifically to something just happened and it has convinced me to believe in something. As for me, I believe that I'll be seeing you next week. Mata raishu!